Hello, and welcome to Cheers. That's one woman's opinion. I am your host, Carolyn Mills. Today we'll be looking at Cheers Season 2, Episode 9, They Call Me Mayday. And if you're new to watching the show and don't yet know, Mayday was Sam Malone's nickname in baseball. It was Sammy Mayday Malone. This episode first aired December 1st, 1983. It was directed by James Burrows. It was written by Glenn Charles, Les Charles, James Burrows, and David Engel. And again, Engel was killed in the 9/11 attacks with his wife. Guest cast includes Walter, and I'm going to hopefully pronounce his name right, Walter Olkowitz as Wally Boldell. And he passed away in 2021 following an infection. Ed Quinlan as Bob, and Dick Cavett as himself, Dick Cavett. Cheers was said by John Ratzenberger. Summary. In the cold open, Sam comes into the bar, and Norm is in his bathrobe drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. Sam asks if there are any calls, and Norm says that Vera called because she wanted to reach out and nag someone. This is from an old commercial for AT&T where they said reach out and touch someone. Norm tells Sam that he wants to pay him for letting him crash at the bar once he gets back on his feet. Sam says he doesn't need to, but Norm says he has his pride. And first, Sam suggests $1, and Norm is like, for what? So they actually agree upon 50 cents a month, where everybody knows your name plays. Dick Cavett comes into the bar. Diane is excited, and asks the others if they know who that is. Coach replies, who? The man with Dick Cavett? They discuss Cavett, and Sam says he used to watch him on PBS. Diane is surprised that Sam watches PBS, but Sam says he likes the show with all the girls answering the phones. So they used to have a lot of telethons on PBS, obviously because it's public access education, public television. So to raise money, they used to do telethons. And they would show these really, when I would watch it, they would show really awesome movies. Like I remember watching Guys and Dolls on it one year. And they'd have, because they don't have commercials on PBS, but they would have pledge breaks. And you'd see all these people on the phones and they'd give you the tally. And they would do that, I think, at least a couple times a year. I used to love it because that's when all the really greatest movies were on. Um, I watched the kids programming all the time, but these movies were like I didn't see them anywhere, so it was a really good thing. Diane wonders why Kata is in Boston. Sam is concerned about the look on her face, and there's a funny moment because Carla says that she has yet to see a face that she does like on Diane. Coach is upset because an old teammate of his just died from a heart attack. I found the scene interesting in retrospect because less than 2 years later, Nicholas Colasanto, who plays Coach, himself will die of a heart attack. He died on February 12th, 1985, from a heart attack. Coach says that his friends had a lot of bad habits. Again, Nicholas Colasanto was an alcoholic. He got sober in 1976 from going to Alcoholics Anonymous. And he did stay clean, but that's actually what messed up his heart and why he had all the health problems that he had. It also was, um, he had a lot of memory issues. He used to write his lines. The cast members talk about a spot where he had written some of his lines on the stairwell, and they were upset because they got painted over. But so there's a lot of similarities between between the actor who played Coach Nicholas Colasanto and Coach's friend here. Um, but it's in retrospect because obviously this was all before that all happened. Well, not the alcoholism. And Coach also says that his friend is probably out of shape. Cliff says everyone needs exercise. Coach says he can use it and asks Cliff what he recommends. Cliff tells him prehensile isotonic geometrics. I don't even know what that meant. I just actually like the way it sounds. Coach asks him what it is, and Cliff tells him that it's muscle tension under constant contraction. He tells Coach to choose a muscle and flex it for 60 seconds. Norm comes back from the bathroom and says, I saw this on the Twilight Zone once. Diane goes over to Dick Cavett. She tells him she is an aspiring poetess. She also tells him how much she admires him and asks him why he's in Boston. He explains that he is doing a book signing. She tells him that he must have friends in the publishing business. Furthermore, it would be good if he could discover a poetic genius. Cavett is frustrated because he can't get her to get a drink, to get him a drink. Carla calls Cliff's exercise system stupid. Norm asks Carla how she stays so thin. She tells him sex, and then explains she misses it so much she can't eat. This is a great line. I remember in middle school, I was in seventh or eighth grade at that point. We were a bunch of us were outside because we used to, conjugate there, waiting to go in the building when it would open. So we're all out there chatting, and somebody said the best form of exercise is sexercise, and I think that's what they were all thinking. So the great line that she's actually just not getting any, and therefore can't eat. Diane is reading to Cabot some poetry that she wrote. Sam watches her. She then asks Cabot what he thinks. Cabot stares blankly, so Diane just starts on with another poem. And then Sam comes over to rescue Cabot from Diane. Sam introduces himself to Cabot. Cabot remembers Sam from when Sam played baseball. And Sam explains he had a drinking problem and doesn't really remember 1974 and 1975. And Cabot tells him that the Red Sox won the pennant in 1975. He asks Sam if he ever considered writing his life story, and Sam asks Cabot why he would help him. Cabot says that he likes to encourage young writers. Diane, of course, is upset. She accuses Sam of distracting Cabot, who is listening to her poetry. Sam tells her that Cabot asked him to write his story, not the other way around. Diane tells him that for him, the written word is merely a way to find the men's room. And I was thinking about this. Um, Diane constantly insults Sam. I'm not quite sure why they're together. I mean, all they do is fight. Sam said that in previous episode that they haven't gone more than 24 hours without a fight. And she has no respect for him whatsoever because she thinks he's a babbling moron. Let's face it. That Sam Malibu Diane makes more sense to me because Sam has no qualms about sleeping with any woman. It's just what he does. But why Diane is with him, I don't quite get that because they don't get along. She doesn't respect him. She insults him all the time. Sam asks Diane to help him write the book. Diane says Sam is just feeling sorry for her, but he denies it. She agrees, but wants an as told to credit. She kisses He kisses her on the cheek. She asks him if he wants to fool around or write. Sam says he figured she could do one while he does the other. Wally enters and calls Norm Moonglow Peterson. And I was curious because they don't explain how he got his nickname Moonglow. But my thought was in a previous episode, him and Cliff, whew, sorry, him and Cliff return from, I believe it was a Patriots game. Might have been a Red Sox game. It was some kind of sports event. And they had to move up because it was baseball. Because they took off their shirts and Norm blinded everyone with the glare on his back. The players couldn't see. So I'm curious if this is how he got the name Moonglow. Did perhaps while he was wrestling, did he randomly accidentally moon person he was with wrestling, or maybe the audience watching the wrestling match? And did that also give a glow, just like his skin did, because he's got alabaster skin, as he said. So I'm curious if that might be how he got it. Just a theory. Norm says Wally put on a few pounds, and Wally says that Norm lost a few. Norm explains to the others that he and Wally wrestled in high school, which means Wally obviously came from the Midwest too, because we know. Do we know by now? Well, we find out at some point Norm comes from Chicago, just like George Wendt did. Norm then tells Wally that he married Vera, but they are currently separated. Wally asks if he can stop by and say hi to Vera. I found this interesting too because at no point does Wally get the address for Norma Vera's house. And yet somehow he goes and sees her. He didn't even know what she was up to, which means he doesn't have any contact with her. He was surprised that Norm to see Norm in the bar, so he didn't have contact with him. So it's not like they were writing or anything, and he had the address, but somehow he magically finds Vera without an address. Norm says he doesn't care, and Cliff says that Norm has a new girl named Tanya Cocoa Butter. Great name. Norm is depressed. Coach asks him when he's bringing Tanya by. Norm says that Wally moves fast. Time passes. Coach comes back from doing laps in the pool. He explains that he did three and it took him about an hour. Cliff says that isn't very fast, but Coach explains he could do more and be faster if they took the water out of the pool. This is a great line that he's not actually swimming, he's actually trying to run in the water, which actually probably does have the same. I mean, probably definitely going to lose weight because you got the what's that called resistance from the water. But it's funny that he thinks that's what you're supposed to do in a pool is run laps. Coach says that he feels great and thinks he can do handstand push-ups again. He tries it and is able to. Sam comes out of his office and asks Coach what he's doing. And then he tells Coach that it was Johnny Drisdall who did the handstand push-ups in spring training. Coach suddenly falls and explains that he's okay thanks to Sam. Another great bit there where he's doing it perfectly with no problems until Sam tells him he wasn't the one that did it. Very well. This episode was very well read. Norm is on the payphone. And for those younger people who might be listening, a payphone was a big box with a phone receiver that you put your quarter or dime in the earlier years into the phone, and then you get to speak for a certain amount of time. And then an operator will tell you to add more money if you wish to keep speaking. You could also call collect if you didn't have money. You call the person collect, it would say tell the name, you'd say, Carolyn, and that would work too. If you were really good, you learned how to do it, give an entire message while giving your name. And went something like this. At the time of the beep, please leave your name. Carolyn's mom picked me up at school. And then it would hang up. And they knew just what you needed. He says he was talking to Wally. Wally is upset because Norm called the cops and said that Wally had dope. Coach asks Norm why he did that, and Norm explains that Wally keeps putting the moves on Vera. Norm says that Wally is coming over to talk. Dick Cavett returns with the manuscript. Cavett says that writing was good. Sorry. Cavett says that the writing was good, but it's not meaty enough. Alcoholism was popular 10 years ago. Now readers want more spicy stuff. And he lists some things like homosexuality, incest, I forget what else he says. And Sam apologizes for not getting out more. He says that Sam wrote more about his Playboy life. That stuff sells. Sam wants to do as Cavett suggests. However, Diane is not willing to publish Schmut. Sam asks her if her pen name, Jessica Simpson Bourgeois, would be willing. Diane tells him in a minute. They go back to the office. Wally comes back to the bar. Cliff says, this town ain't big enough for the both of you. And it's funny because he actually adds the line because you know how big George Munt was, Norm. Well, Wally is just as big and possibly maybe a little bigger. I'm not sure, but he says this town's not big enough for the both of you. Then he says, but what town is? Which today would also be probably not used as a joke because it's like fat shaming Norman Wally and more so the actors. Wally says he likes Vera a lot. Norm asks Wally how he liked the trooper. Sorry. Norm asks Wally how he liked the trooper with the icy hands. Wally replied, it had its moments, and then the two begin to wrestle. Norm comes out of the office and asks Coach for a glass of water. He hands it to her and she throws it into her face. She says, "Boy, can I write." And then she returns to the office. Hours later, Wally and Norm are still at it. And it's funny because the whole time they fight all this time, and people just walk around them, over them, and nobody's even paying attention to them. I think maybe Diane and Sam, they come out, look at them briefly, then they, I think they're done by the time Sam got there. But yeah, they're not too concerned. Hours later, Wally and Norm are still at it. Norm finally pins Wally down and wins. Wally asks if they are still friends, and Norm tells him, "Hey, don't let a 7.5 hour hug give you the wrong idea." Coach congratulates Norm on winning Vera. Oh, please. Oh, then he orders Norm to go to the phone and call his wife. Norm says he should, but he would still prefer a trophy. Sam comes out of the office. Hands him a glass of water. He throws it in his face and says, "Boy, does she write good." And that was the episode. I gave this episode 3 out of 5 beer nuts. The plot with the Cavett was good because of Cavett. Honestly, because it was the A plot, it really wasn't that great. For an A plot, it was like, okay, he's gonna write a book. Diane wants to write a book, but Dick Cavett was awesome. He um he had a talk show for like a million years. I don't know how long it lasted. I don't even know if it's over yet. But he did a talk show, and there's actually a famous incident. A person died on that talk show. It was never aired. There's a thing called the Mandala theory. Mandala. It's not a theory. I forgot what it's called. But basically, it's where a group of people in society, like all over the world or whatever, so mass people, believe they saw something or heard something or whatever that never happened. For instance, in I Love Lucy, Ricky has never actually said the line, "Lucy, you got some splaining to do." He said variations of that, but that actual line has never been said. Well, in this case, a lot of people swear that they saw the episode of Dick Cavett where a person died during the show, but it never aired. So unless they were at the taping, they did not see it. But yet people will swear they saw it. Um, just a little sidetrack note there. But that's where I know him from is the talk show. And I didn't see it until later. So I didn't like when I first saw this episode growing up, I had no idea who Dick Cavett was and why it was a big deal. But then I would see him on the talk show, and it actually amazed me. I was like, he's got that dry humor. So he didn't seem very funny on the talk show, but he was a great host. And then I see him here, and he's got these funny lines, and he delivers them so well. So I think Dick Cavett really made this episode. But the B story with Norm and Wally was slightly better. It's still just an okay episode. Uh, but it was kind of funny with the way Norm was trying to get back at him and whatnot. In fact, our MVP this week is George Wendt, just because I love how he was trying to get back at Wally and he did it really well and everything. Best dressed, I picked Nicholas Colasanto. You might be wondering why, because Nicholas Colasanto, as coach, oh, sorry, I should have said best dressed was coach. I messed it up because the character gets the best dress, not the actor. So best dress was Coach. And you might be wondering why, because he wears pretty much the same clothing every week. It's a white shirt. However, his tie, I really like the tie. It was like green with dots on it, but it's a nice tie. So I gave him the best dressed. Grand Slam line. Diane, I couldn't help notice your Dick Cavett. Cavett, I couldn't help being Dick Cavett. On baseline. Cavett says, "I saw you pitch once at Yankee Stadium." Sam replies, "Is that right? Did I have a good night?" Cavett says, "I hope so. You had a lousy night." Oh, I messed that up. So you had a lousy day. And try that again. Cavett says, "I saw you pitch once at Yankee Stadium." Sam says, "Is that right? Did I have a good night?" Cavett says, "I hope so. You had a lousy day." Here's a little known fact. The book Dick Cavett was most likely referring to that he was promoting was his second book, I Am Cavett, which came out earlier in 1983. So along with he's made television appearances. He had his own talk show. He's also an author. So that really was true about him. Very talented man. If you like this episode, please click like, subscribe, follow, all those button things that one does when they listen to these podcasts. And of course, you can join the Facebook group. Cheers, that's one woman's opinion. Oh, let me turn the light off. There you go, better. And you can follow us on Instagram at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter X at One Woman's Opinion. And of course, you can email us with questions, comments, etc. at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast at gmail.com. And also, I would like to let you guys know there will be a couple interviews coming up. I don't know when they'll be out, but I will be emailing. I'll be interviewing Josh Lazoff, which is an early interview because he doesn't come until later. He actually played Gino Tortelli, one of Carlos and Nick's sons. So he's early, but he actually asked me about it, so I wanted to get him when I could. He's hoping to come back also to do a rewatch of one of his episodes. So that should be coming soon. We had it scheduled, but he thought that was audio only, so we're rescheduling so that we can do the video as well. So I'm waiting to hear back from him. So that will be happening. And I will be interviewing not a Cheers member, but she was on a show from NBC, Allison Ingram, who played Nellie Olson on Little House on the Prairie. I'll be interviewing her on November 3rd. So it'll either come out later that day or the following Monday. I haven't decided yet. So keep your eyes out for those. And that's one woman's opinion.